Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, this is all working because it's been a long time since I last did a stream. So, I've had a bit of problems with getting things set up. So, hopefully, things are all okay. But I hope everyone is having a wonderful evening. And if we do have any technical issues, we can hopefully try and iron them out as we go. So, I think it's been a really long time since the last stream that I did anything. I think it was Space Marine 2, which would have been last year. So yeah, hopefully things are going okay. Are we actually, is the Twitch stream working okay? Because it didn't look like it was working earlier, so I think we'll find out anyway. Yeah, so I hope everyone is having a great week so far. I thought I would jump on to a stream today and also hopefully keep doing these more as we go along in the future. I did enjoy doing them before. I just need to get into a routine, and then fingers crossed everything works out okay. But yeah, we're going to be doing some Space Wolf Kitbashes, as the title of the stream says. Basically, the biggest reason for doing that is just because I did that Kitbash series. Well, I say series. I did two. I did two videos which had my Chaos Corrupted Space Wolves, my Khorne Corrupted Space Wolves. I did the Leman Russ, and I also did the Logan Grimnar as well. I thought, well, considering Space Wolves have got a new release and a bunch of new releases, I thought I would actually get back on there, maybe do some more kit bashing in the Khorne way. So I think I'm kind of going a little bit different direction with this particular one. Basically, in the past, if you haven't seen that video, make sure you go check it out. But the previous video was more using Khorne miniatures and making them Space Wolf, whereas this time I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to be using some new head taker models. I have my frame here, so we're going to be building something using this, and probably stick some dead animal bits on there as well if we can get away with it. But yeah, hello to everyone in the chat. I hope you're all having a great time. The 2 is kind of a series. It is. I mean, technically this is the 3rd entry, so 3 is definitely a series. Bernard Cornelius Van. Oh wow, what a name. Van Meijeren Karp. Just curious. I love your dead animal bit sprue. Would you ever considering making another sprue with new bits? Well. It's almost as if you read my mind. It's almost as if you were a plant, because if I... So, hopefully they're in here. I think I kept them in here. Right, so, as many of you probably already know, I did a Dead Animal Bits kit bash a while ago. Kit bash? What am I? Kickstarter. And it's been doing fantastic. The Kickstarter itself went really well, and then since it's been on retail since like November time, it's been fantastic. I did Salute in April, and I just got back from UK Games Expo this weekend, and I was saying them at both, and it was really great to see everyone's reaction to them. It kind of gets shown off in person as well. This kind of project we've had for so long. But yeah, there is actually another one on the way. Let me see if hopefully this is all working okay. There we go. I just need to adjust the focus a little bit. But these are some of the prototype pieces for the next kit. This will be a similar kind of setup to last time. There'll be a crowdfunding campaign, and then hopefully if it gets funded, I'll get another plastic kit out. So this time we're going for a different direction. We're not doing dead animal bits. We're still doing the kind of instant bits box kind of deal that we had last time, but this time it's going to be more about having some actual... Sorry, let me just sort out these so I can see. More about doing some actual different themes, and this is one of the themes I've come up with. Oh, I've got a whole long list. It's basically called Arcane Artifacts, and yeah, as you can see from this little... I'll get it's nice and close so everyone can see clearly. So these are the 3D printed components. These were very kindly printed out for me by Ross from Warhammer, so big thank you to him for doing a fantastic job on these. There's going to be a few changes to these. These obviously need to be adjusted slightly. Might get a bit chunkier, but effectively they're going to be things like candles. There's lots of candles, little 3 of candles. Another 3 of candles. There is a little cauldron. This is going to be a 2-part piece. And my favourite thing about this, you can have it open like so, or you can place the little disc in there, and you can have it as like a. I need to sort of have it as a little filled cauldron, which is pretty cool. Happy with that. Little cloth pouches. You can hopefully get these. Let's adjust the focus here so we can actually see these. There we go. Little cloth pouches. We have, what else? We have potion bottles of various shapes and sizes as well. A little magic ball. Books. I love books. The thing is about books, quite hard to get a hold of. Flagellant, Sprue, Dark Angels kit's usually pretty good. So we've got some open books. We've got some closed books as well. They didn't quite as nice as wanted. We need to maybe go back and rethink those. Even things like just parchment paper. I've got 2 of these. One of them has got folds in, like it's been folded over into like an envelope, and this is like an unfilled one. We've got scrolls, so parchment's been rolled into scrolls. We've got 2 variants. We've got one with a little buckle on there, perfect for Space Marines. If I've got bring one of the Space Marines in from my desk, you can see they kind of work really nicely for the belt size. Basically, if they work for Space Marines and fantasy and D&D and all those kind of things, it's perfect. This is a long telescope, yes. I also have a kind of a like compacted one. This little bend is like I don't know why that's happened. It's probably just a little problem with the printing, but yeah, generally speaking, this will be perfectly straight. We have got an open telescope, so this can be used as a telescope, or we can use it as, you can stick it on a rifle and make like a steampunk sniper scope. More pouches, a couple of different variants. We have some little leather pouches. I'm really pleased with these. I'm going to try and get as many of those on the kit because you know how I love pouches. So yeah, a couple of sizes of those. Pennants, kind of like purity seals, but a little bit longer, a little bit different than what you normally get. Yeah, pretty much everything. A few extra little bits we need to like. Still need to clip off the spruce sports, but yeah, that is the next one. I will quickly just drop a link to that. It's still on a preview page at the moment, but it will be coming in the future. Let's see. Can I easily drop it in here? Yeah, so if you want to go check that out, then by all means, you can click on there and you can follow the project. If you backed the original Kickstarter and went through the game found, then you will already get notifications once it goes live. But can I drop that into Twitch? I don't know what Twitch is. Twitch is saying I'm currently offline, but God knows what's going on there. Anyway, let's drop that in there as well. But yeah, that's basically it. Again, same kind of principle. Lots of plastic bits in a sprue makes life much easier for everyone. And yeah, that's going to be the plan. Hopefully later this year, I'm going to try and get it done before maybe September, October time. So yeah. Will that one be handy storage bits? I have got an idea for something which will be more kind of. I've got so many ideas. There will be lots and lots of stuff on there. So eventually, when you paint the screen, will it be red or grey, or will they have a nice tone? Probably going to be, I would say, grey, kind of old school Space Wolf stuff, and then with red bits, kind of like how I did my Angron and Logan Grimnar, I reckon. Tromari, unfortunately, going to stay for the whole stream. I have to do adult things today. Can't wait to see they have the next beat. Really looking forward to more Heresy conversions too. Yes, lots more planned. Should be some cool stuff coming in the future. I will hopefully be doing some more streams on a regular basis. So yeah, fingers crossed we can do those. I'm trying to find plastic chain axes for months and every bit's website it does not deliver to France or it's out of stock. So I bought resin ones and then Gina released the chain axe kit. Yeah. It says live, but also yeah. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I think I've tried to use like stream elements. It's kind of saying I don't know what's going on. To be fair, I'm not an entirely. If I go live is already there, so that's already done. Primary output. This is a primary output. Yep. I don't know what is going on with the Twitch stuff. So unfortunately, I hope that it sort of works. I don't know how to change it. I don't know about Twitch enough. But odd. broke Twitch. Anyway, let's get back to this kit bash. So, We Paint Minis, good evening. How's it going? Right, where's this kit now? So I'm just going to do some very basic clipping of components from the sprue. Nothing too fancy. I don't want to spend the whole time cleaning up components if I can help it. And there is a lot of components in here. I'm going to do the bare minimum. We can clean up mold lines later on. We're going to do something very, very simple and straightforward. So just a heads up whilst I'm doing this, just so I make sure I get actually on the right tabletop and face. There we go. Lovely. Right, is that okay? Perfect. Yeah, so the next video that I'm releasing is kind of just a quick one. Obviously with UK Games Expo, I was away for like 4 days over the weekend, so I didn't really get much chance to work on stuff that I wanted to, especially with like preparing for the event as well. If any of you did come up and say hi at UK Games Expo, it was great to meet you, as it always is at these events. I'm probably not going to do any more events this year, I don't think. There's nothing really that has caught my eye. I will definitely be doing Salute next year. I'll be doing ChillCon again next year. I'll have a stand there, and then UK Games Expo I'll likely be doing again. The event was huge this year. It was I think it's the biggest one that they've ever done. I think over the course of a weekend it was something like 76,000 attendees and like 42,000 unique attendees, which is crazy. It was really busy, especially on the Saturday. If you ever get to go for just one day, I think Friday is a good day because it's not too busy and you get the full 10 till 6. But Saturday is absolutely crazy busy. But it was good. I was at the Element Games stand, so I had a lot of help, which was really grateful for. C4, C5, let's get all those. C7, C6. So we're just going to get this basic torso built first. I'm going to keep the arms separate for the time being. That's probably where I'm going to start with the majority of the actual kit bashing. But the actual torso is quite a few parts for this. I think the big fur cloak is a big aspect of that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. That's the whole entire torso built as well. Any recommendations for sources of psychic hoods for 40k? It's volume's a bit low. Let me adjust that a little bit. I can do a little bit more. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, I can just talk a bit louder as well. Any recommendations for sources of psychic hoods? So psychic hoods are a tricky one because I don't think there's any like particular. There's no separate pieces as far as I know. The Grey Knights all have them as standard on the torso, so you could go ahead and clip them away from those. A little bit of a tricky thing to do, but not impossible. I did remember seeing a very simple, almost conversion a while ago, where someone took a Space Marine shoulder pad and you basically cut out 2 little circles, and it kind of you can stick it behind the head. It does require a lot of adjusting and trimming and all those kind of things that go with kit bashing, but it is doable. It is possible. But as a single piece, I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe there's some resin parts, but finding something that'll fit nicely behind a Space Marine head on a Space Marine torso without intersecting with the backpack would probably be quite difficult, I would say. Prometheus, first time at Salute this year, was pretty cool. It was neat getting to chat with you a bit as well. Yeah, so the great thing about Salute is everything is one day, which seems like, compared to like UK Games Expo, there's so much to do there. You really need a good few days to get everything done. But because Salute is very much more focused, it's more wargaming related than UK Games Expo. There's more and more wargaming stuff getting added to UK Games Expo all the time. And it does seem that that aspect is growing more, but there's still a heavy focus on things like board games. A lot of the big companies there that you'll find like Hatchet were there with their board games, Zatu, Spiral Galaxy, Asmodee. They were all the big board game people, and they had huge stands. There was a huge Lorcana stand as well, so a lot of trading card games. Yu-Gi-Oh were there, possibly Pokemon, I can't remember, but yeah, lots of tabletop card games, TCGs, board games, and there is more and more tabletop games getting there, so it's good to see that grow. But Salute's good. I like Salute. It's just one day. It's very focused day. You do everything on that one day, and then that's done. But I do feel like maybe people don't get a chance to do everything that they want, especially all the demo games and little paint and takes and things that people have. Pete the Wargamer live in this economy. It's a good. I know. It's something I've been meaning to do for a while, and I think it's one of those things where I just thought, I'll do it next week, and I do it next week, and then before you know, 6 months have passed, and you haven't done a single live stream. I don't know when the last one. I think the last live stream that I did was a Space Marine 2, where I actually played the game. I did enjoy that. It was good fun. But then I haven't done any actual miniature kitbashing ones. I think I definitely did one for some Bretonians, which would have been like last January, maybe February time. So yeah. A long time ago for actually doing any form of kitbashing stream. But yeah, as always, if you used to watch my previous, I say as always as if I do this regularly, I don't. But if you used to watch my old kitbashing streams, if you have any questions or anything that you kind of either don't get to answer during regular videos because I missed the comments or anything like that, it needs a little bit back and forth, feel free to ask them. This is the time to do it. It's not necessarily just a time for me to kitbash and explain what I'm doing. It is also a big part of it is a way of having more that interaction with everyone who watches my channel, so feel free to ask questions. The stream was dead on Twitch for some reason. I have no idea what's going on with the particular. It's a strange one. It kind of says that it's live, but it doesn't. It isn't dead. I'm not sure. I'll have to maybe look at this for the future. New Dog Prime, thank you very much for the super chat. Using your bits with a Dark Oath and an Auric Kitbash. Yeah, Auric's perfect. That's why I use some of them on the actual Kickstarter page itself. Really kind of good for those animal bits, and yeah, Dark Oath as well. Actually, I've never tried them to use them on there, but they already have a lot of those kind of dead animal bits on there already, so it's a nice compliment, especially the horns. This is another good thing about the events as well, because it's quite interesting to see what people are using the dead animal bits kits for, because on the surface it seems to be very kind of one-dimensional. If you don't have something like Space Marines, you might be thinking, well, what is this going to be used for? And I can see that it can be quite difficult to maybe visualize exactly what you can find in a project, but there are so many different options, and between speaking to people at the event and finding out what they were using them for, and also kind of working out what people might be able to use them for, was really good. So I spoke to one guy who kind of came up and he was looking at the sprue, and I explained to him what it was, and he was like, "Oh, I like the sprue, but I'm a Star Wars Legion player, so I don't really know what I'd use them for." And I said, well, if you look at Tauntauns, if you look at Banthas, I even think, is it the Wampa or something like that? All of those have little curly ram horns that would work really well for like bases, or if you're doing something like Ewoks or anything like that. Then there's so many different options that you can use them for, and when you just kind of need to think about it a little bit, which obviously I maybe need to do a few more non-Warhammer focused things for the people who don't collect Warhammer and use dead animal bits, but it's a really versatile kit. It's made to be as generic as possible, which is why. Well, how does this go together? What is going on here? Maybe I need to glue that on first. Okay, glue the belt on first. Actually, follow the instructions. Something I'm not very good with it. I love opening YouTube to find something to have on in the background whilst building minis, and seeing a live stream of someone else building minis. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? It's kind of feels like you're part of a larger community who's enjoying those kind of things. I think as well, building minis is, especially if you're just following instructions. If you're kit bashing, it's a little bit more involved and you have to think about things. But if you're just following the instructions, it can get quite monotonous, I find, especially if you're just spending all the time doing things like, oh, what's going? I've got a cat hair. Cat hairs get everywhere. The cats don't even really come into here very often, but they still manage to get everywhere. Yeah, I find the building to be the most tedious. Kit bashing is great, but clipping away and cleaning up the components can be a bit boring. If you're just building an army and you're not really kit bashing it much, it can be quite tedious at times. But yeah, it's pretty cool if you've got other people to do it with. Currently building a Horus Heresy Land Raider Proteus. Any recommendations to make it more world eatery for 40k? So, yeah. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with skulls for world eaters. That's always that's always the go-to answer when it comes to world eaters, which isn't particularly inspired, but it does make the most sense. Chains are also very good. I think, to be honest, the Proteus is one of those ones which is quite a nice kit for 40k because it's fairly bland in itself. There's not an awful lot to it, so it gives you lots of surfaces to add extra spikes and chains and skulls and all that kind of thing. But it's hard to... I think beyond the chain things, I can't really think of an awful lot. If you want to go a little bit further, I always quite enjoy seeing people who have strapped torsos to vehicles. I think that always works really nicely for Chaos Miniatures. And they can be quite easy to do. I think a good source for like a Space Marine torso is it called Nemesis Claw, the kill team, the Night Lord's kill team. They're really good. They have one of them on a banner that's quite good for sticking onto vehicles, things like that. A couple of chains you can wrap around the front. Even just zombies work well if you want to kind of have human scaled stuff. And the great thing about zombies and other torsos is you can just kind of cut them away at the middle, do a little bit of green stuff guts, or even just cut them away in such a way that you don't need to. And hey presto, instant gribbly bits for your world eaters. Mold lines can be minimized, but they are part of the process, kind of, yeah. So one of the things which I've kind of been looking into doing a little bit more is doing less mold line removal to the parts themselves, and then assembling things, and then seeing where the mold lines are, and then removing them afterwards. It doesn't always work incredibly easily, because if you build up model too much, you can end up with too much in the way. But the amount of times that I've spent ages carefully removing mold lines and sprue tabs, only for them to kind of hide within a recess or be covered up by something else, and you feel like I've just wasted all that time, and I could have been. And then when you do that over a whole squad or even like a whole army, you can actually save an awful lot of time. Came here because Twitch was kind of dead, but did have a fun question with the head takers and 8-bound being the chunky elite melee units. Were you thinking of bashing these kits together, or not as much? So my thinking is, and my intention was with this kind of project originally, was to build it in two ways. So the great thing is about the new Blood Claws is that we actually have a dedicated kind of battle line infantry unit now for Space Wolves, which work really well as Khorne Berserkers. They effectively have the same weapon loadout. I mean, a chain axe is, rules-wise, is close enough to a chainsword. So the intention was to basically be able to use both sets of rules. So if I wanted to lean more into a Space Marine list, you can then use your basic Khorne Berserkers, and you can run them as Blood Claws or Grey Hunters. Or then if I wanted to do Head Takers, I could run them as a Space Marine list, or I could add some 8-bound Wolfen or something like that. I can mix and match, and it effectively becomes an army which is able to be used over for 2 rule sets. So it's kind of like a free army in a way. I don't think I still need to complete the Raptors. The Raptors are still in progress, but I would like to go further. I really like the idea. I enjoy building. I've been enjoying building it, and yeah. So for example, here you can see if I spent ages doing these mold lines, this kind of bolt pistol would have fallen right behind here, and been barely visible. So yeah. I've rewatched some of your old videos. What were the paints you used for your Death Guard Possessed? So that's a go. So I think off the top of my head, I began with, it would have been like a bone or off-white primer, and then I think it went for, I used a lot of contrast paints. I used, yeah, I think I used red contrast paints, like I think it was either, I don't think it was Blood Angels Red, it was the darker one, the darker red contrast paint. I used that over the mutations. I used the orange over all of the metals. I feel like I did a video, but I can't remember if maybe I didn't. But it was a I have like a very, I started a Death Guard. I do this all the time. I always start them. But yeah, it was a lot of streak and grime, things like that over the top, and lifting it up afterwards. That was the main process, basically. A lot of contrast paints and then streak and grime, and then like I think I used graphite over the ends. What is going on with Twitch? How can I feel like I need somebody to, Yankee is here. Hello, Yankee. Are you still a mod? I think you still are a mod. You are still a mod. Okay, cool. Right. Let's see. Let's see if I can sort this out without destroying it. Right. So what is it that, so on YouTube, on Twitch, the only thing I can see is literally the offline holding image. I can't see anything else on there. But apparently I'm streaming to Twitch. So stream. Okay, so I'm streaming. Okay, so I'm streaming to YouTube. If I add this to Twitch, connect. I've already done this once. Oh, okay, this looks different. Authorize. Let's see. Can't see the screen, just a blank screen. Weird. Using Restream, yeah, I think that's I think Restream is probably what is doing it. Let's see. Let's see if we can fix it. Okay. Yep, that's authorized. Okay. Okay. It's saying connection successful. Is it though? I've got a big button that says start streaming on something else, but I feel like it might stop streaming on here. And if I do that, the stream on YouTube will just die completely. Connect. That's connected. Okay. I've added it as an output. Ah, okay. Twitch. Oh no, I've done it already. Weird. Anyway, if you're watching, if you can hear me on Twitch, then please do head on over to YouTube for the time being. I'll try and sort this out for the future. I'm trying to do it both. I think there was a Twitch API update and happened to cause it. Okay, well that explains why then. So maybe we will kind of have to maybe close down the Twitch stuff at the time being. I don't know how to stop streaming to Twitch at the time without doing this. So if you're on Twitch, I do apologize. We will hopefully get this sorted for the next time. Multi-streaming seems like a pain at times. Yes, it does. Anyway, so yeah, let's get back to this guy. We have some. I'm also going to be for any of the people who were here with the original streams. You can guarantee we're going to go back looking at some old White Dwarfs at some point. I'll need a break from doing this, so we're going to go back and look at old White Dwarfs. We'll get sidetracked as we always do because people ask questions and I want to ask them. So yeah. Misfit, I did some light kitbashing of, excuse me, Araman in the last few days. Nice. What did you do? Count Joe 1. Ever thought of giving Exodites a go? With all the new Eldar and Seraphim kits, it seems like it'd be pretty cool. Yeah, so it's been one of those kind of projects that's always been on the back burner. I can guarantee that by the time I get around to doing it, Games Workshop will literally just decide to release them anyway, probably as a kill team or something. Misopogon. Didn't realise you did Kitbashers, Pete. Looking forward to see what you cook up. Yeah, so back, I assume you make streams? But yeah. Hello. Will there be regular video of Kitbashing these Space Wolves? I mean, maybe. This is kind of like something I wanted to do. I have a lot of ideas for actual Kitbashing of main video stuff, so this is just a way of getting little ideas out there. So we've grabbed the World Eater's Really Useful box. We're going to be grabbing some bits out of there. So my original thoughts were, because obviously the head takers use an axe, and so do Khorne Berserkers. So we have some axes, and now I can't remember off the top of my head if these guys have any right-handed axes. Definitely have plenty of left-handed axes. Left chainsword. Okay, we might need to do a little bit more than I expected. I could go for 8-bound, but I think I'm going to probably, yeah, let's switch out the arms a bit. So I'm thinking an axe would look pretty cool. So these shoulders are quite interesting because whilst they have the pre-sculpted shoulder pad on there, there's still a little bit of room that you can stick an arm in there. I might need to shave things down a little bit. I also do want to use one of these bare arms as well. Actually, you only get 2 of them if I remember right. You might get... Oh no, there's a couple. Okay, we can use one of these ones as well. I think the bare arms that the Khorne Berserkers have just look really cool. I think I like to see all of the cool detailing in there. There's no face. Tabletop and face. There we go. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. Ben Stowas. Gutted that I didn't say hi at UK Games Expo. Your Kitbashers looked even better in real life than in the videos. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I did have a lot of the Kitbashers with me. Not everyone, but I did have a few of them. So I will... try and bring more in the future, but yeah, that's why I like to bring them along, because I'm used to seeing all my Kitbashers in person, but they do look different in real life than they do on stream. What happened to the Necromunda Tower you never finished? I mean, to be fair, that was a stream one. I know. I still haven't really got around to doing much Necromunda stuff, but my next passion that I feel like I've got all these ideas that I want to do. I want to do my own, more of my own kits. I want to do Kitbashers. The next video, by the way, is just going to be a quick video. A lot of people asked me how I painted the Space Wolves from that 13 Great Company, so I'm doing a little dedicated video for that. It's been a while since I did a single painted video. The next... I don't have anything to hand. I thought I did. I'm going to try and get into Lord of the Rings, because I used to do Lord of the Rings back in the start of my wargaming career journey, let's say. I used to really enjoy the game, and I picked up the rule books recently for the latest edition, and I'm really pleased to see that I actually remember most of the rules. Most of the rule set still seems to be the same from like 20 years ago, which is amazing considering how much 40k and Age of Sigmar and even Horus Heresy seems to change in the same amount of time. It's a really solid rule set, and the fact that you can... There's a lot of tournaments that run 500-point tournaments as well for Lord of the Rings, which is pretty cool because you can get started with an army really easily. So you don't have to fully commit. Where are all the bunny ear heads? Okay, there's one. Where are the rest? Are they on a separate sprue? That's the 8-bound sprue. That is all of the... Oh, there we go. There they are. Right, we're probably going to stick one of these guys on heads on there because I think that really kind of sells the Khorne stuff. The only thing is... No, this is something interesting now. I'm going to talk about bunny ears because there's a bit of a lore discrepancy. And I don't want to be one of those guys, but I do a lot of lore research for these videos. And so one of the Horus Heresy books, which focuses on Angron, I can't remember which one. I've read two World Eater ones, and one of them it's the one that talks about his time, basically growing up as fighting in the slave pits, and when he first sees the gladiators that had like the butcher's nails implanted in them. I think some of them actually have the kind of like the bunny ears as part of their armor. I might be misremembering that. So it's almost like the idea of those kind of head helmet details, they came through into 30k even before the Horus Heresy, and then they got adopted into 40k. But if you then go to things like Blood Bowl, so old world for Khorne stuff, and obviously the Khorne stuff for Age of Sigmar as well, it seems to be like an ongoing motif. So it's definitely a Khorne specific thing, but it's interesting to see how the origins of that came from 30k in terms of one aspect of the lore, but then another aspect of the lore is a Khorne thing. Anyway, side tangent. I told you there would be plenty of side tangents on this. Middle-earth minis are really fun. Yes, so the army that I'm planning, I've got is Depth of Moria, which if you know anything about that, is basically the Balrog and goblins. I have two army lists in mind for that one. One of them, which will be for 500 points, will be the Balrog, and then a bunch of goblins just to fill that in. And then the second list will be mostly goblins with a couple of trolls in there as well. So one of the things I want to do is get a couple of the plastic trolls, the Mordor trolls, and do some kitbashing to make them look like they have Moria Goblin armor. So if you kind of remember that kind of really fierce looking helmet that they have in the films. So I think that's going to be a good arm for the pose there. Again, if you're ever doing these kind of things, it's always good to do dry poses as much as you can. As soon as you commit to clipping it off the sprue, then that's got to go in a bits box if you don't use it. So I like to keep all my stuff organized in the sprues, just because it means I can go to the box and find out exactly what I need. So let's see how much we need to adjust this. So obviously this is the shoulder pad, it's all sculpted on. It might not necessarily be the right angle for this, but hopefully not too bad actually. Works out pretty good. I might... is it being held a little bit too high? I mean, as it stands, it's actually working really well. What I might do is I might adjust this section here a little bit, shave that down so that I can maybe angle the arm and twist it a little bit more so it's kind of like a little bit more at ease. So I might need to adjust it ever so slightly. But in terms of the pose, it works quite nicely. Surprisingly nicely, actually. Do Death Guard and make them compatible with 30k. I did have that idea to do for a while, and obviously there is more Horus Heresy stuff coming up. I think I also worked out it's cheaper to run a 30k Horus Heresy model range army in 40k than it is to run a Death Guard army, just because of the number. And you can pretty much represent all of the weapon options. I think it gets a little bit tricky with things like Death Shroud Terminators because they are bigger than Cataphracti, but there's ways of getting around it. We could do that. Well, we could use Saturnine Terminators for one. Daily Okami, Peter, it was great to meet you at UK Games Expo. Thanks for showing me the Sons of Morkai Marine. You're very much welcome. I do remember you actually. It was, where is he? It's on my desk. Look at that. Really pleased with. One thing I actually didn't do enough of in that video was show the freehand stuff. And this, basically, there isn't much in the way. Let me show you the, in case you haven't picked up the army set. The transfer sprue, the transfer sheet is basically black mains, but you get like a sculpted one of them. Champions of Fenris, and you get a sculpted one of these as well. Blood Moors, and these are the Spirit Wolves. It's weird though, because the Spirit Wolves and Dusk Wolves, there's like two different naming conventions for those. I'm not sure. And then Death Walls. So I used all these ones. I had to do some freehand ones. So the rune marked was pretty straightforward. I basically used a Bloodmaw transfer as the guideline, and then repainted it a little bit to remove the little blood splashes and then change the muzzle a little bit. The sea walls are probably what I was most pleased with. I think the sea walls are my favourite. This one was quite tricky to do because it was much more flowing than the rest of them. So this one wasn't too bad. I like doing this one. 13th Great Company. Grimbloods. That was a fun one to do as well. The red and the yellow. And what else do we have? Stormwolves. Doing the full warfare. And what? Oh yeah, there we go. Red Moons. Oh, so the Drake Slayers as well. They had, so the actual little wolf there, that is a transfer, but I had to freehand the actual sun behind it on that one. And then finally we have the Red Moons as well. This is the first one that I did, and I kind of did this one. I thought this is the most simple one. If I can figure this one out, I can do the rest, and the rest of them took a little bit of work, but I managed to do it. And I really regret not filming it, but I didn't know if I could do them or not, so I'll see. Repaint Minis, have you seen the new Captain Centos model, Pete? I smell a new Cantor Kitbash. Yes, I did see that one. I only briefly saw it get revealed earlier on. It's more about getting my hands on it because it's one of those store anniversary models. And I always find it's the store. My local store is, I think, the one that's closest to me is. I'm kind of right between Manchester, Stoke, Liverpool. Maybe not Nottingham, but yeah, if I'm in the area, maybe I should go and get one. I'm making my Space Wolf Iron Wolves, so they make a good Iron Hand army rule. I can use part of it. Yeah, so this is kind of what I had. So originally the Dusk Wolves / Spirit Wolves. I'm not sure. Maybe I got that name mixed up or something. Where are they? So. Originally, in the old Space Wolf Codex, we had the Iron Wolves, and basically they've been replaced by these guys. But that happens quite often in Space Wolf lore. Whenever a new Great Company leader takes over, the actual Great Company itself will change the name, and they will often... their type of warfare will often reflect that of the new leader. So the Iron Wolves don't exist anymore. They've been taken over by the Dusk Wolves or Spirit Wolves. So what I did is I kind of took that Iron Wolf vibe and then applied it to the Storm Wolves. Basically, these guys like using vehicles, so I thought it kind of works quite nicely. In the lore, it says that the Grey Hunters are the guys who actually are the drivers and the pilots and stuff for those kind of vehicles. So I thought it makes sense to have this guy as almost like a sort of Tech Marine. So I used the Tech Marine pieces. I thought that worked quite nicely. But yeah, it was a nice challenge. It was a long video to do, but it was good. My country has 3 whole Games Workshop official shops. None in my city. Getting that model will be fun. Yeah, I mean, I take it for granted that I live in the UK, and I think there is, within an hour's drive, I can probably get to maybe 3 or 4 Games Workshop stores. Definitely 3, maybe 4. Yeah. What are your plans for the new Heresy box? Any new video series in mind? Yeah, so I do. So the idea that I've had is nothing to do with, unfortunately, it's nothing to do with actual Horus Heresy. The big Saturnine Dreadnought, I really like the size of it, and I think someone on Mini compared to some like a comparison between that and the Nemesis, is it Dread Knight, the Grey Knight's Knight, and they're about the same height, sort of. So I thought it would be pretty cool to make it into a better version of the Grey Knight's Dread Knights, just because I don't like the baby carrier effect. Use some of the parts from that kit to kind of give it that Grey Knight vibe, but yeah, a little bit like how the Custodians have their own Dreadnought variant. I think it'd be quite nice for the Grey Knights to have that as well. I do apologise if I have missed any comments. We're getting quite a few comments on this. I'm quite in. It's good to be chatting to people again. But yeah, if I missed the question, I think my old kind of little convention was, if you're asking a question, just put question semicolon and then put your question. I can just kind of quickly scroll through them. Do you plan on doing a Thunderwolf Cavalry or of Khorne Kitbash? So yeah, it's an interesting one because, like I said, when I did this guy, it was actually surprisingly easy to get the legs to kind of fit over. There was a little bit of jiggery pokery going on down there, but it's covered by the shield, so it's fine. So yeah, actually making Primaris Thunderwolf, a few people said that he looked a little bit too small, but I think it looks fine in terms of scale. I think maybe a bigger wolf would look more impressive, more imposing. But I think the biggest problem was the comparison between the Firstborn, because the Firstborn are tiny compared to this Primaris, and especially on a wolf like this, they look a lot smaller. So yeah, I think they look okay, but for the time being. Daily Okami, thank you very much for becoming a member. Question, any thoughts about doing some bashing with Legion's Imperialis kits? I've been working on some recently and finding it quite rewarding and very different from full scale. So I did do a little bit of kit bashing back in the day, when they were first released, which was it last year before, sometime? But I've never really found the inspiration strikes the same as it does for 40k. I don't know if it's just because I'm out of the loop in terms of the miniatures. I can see there's definitely a lot of options for kit bashing in there. Especially among the vehicles, the miniatures themselves, the infantry are probably a little bit too small, but the vehicles definitely have some options, which is why I kind of focused most of my kit bashing efforts last time. So yeah, I could do something, but I just don't have enough exposure to the game, I guess, to know what I could get away with in the same way as I do with Horus Heresy and 40k, those kind of scaled miniatures. But yeah, never say never. If I get a good idea, I will definitely go back and do one. One of the games that I actually came across at UK Games Expo was it was the Dystopian Wars universe. I think it was Armored Clash, which was a 10mm game, and they have some really nice plastic kits. And I think the good thing about a lot of these smaller companies, which is what I often like doing stuff for those kind of other tabletop miniatures games, is tend to be a little bit more open to kit bashes and conversions, things like that. Games Workshop, you by all means do whatever kit bashes you want in your own time if you're doing your own work, but I think the problem is, for me, is when I'm doing these conversions and stuff, I want people to be able to follow them, and if they want to play in the local Games Workshop, they can do. If they want to take it to a tournament, they can do, and you don't have to worry about someone saying, well, you can't use that because it's not the right model or anything. So I try to do everything as, what's the word, as GW friendly as possible, but not for any reason other than I just want people to not have to run into issues once they've followed it. And I think it's also, it does kind of add a level of challenge to it, I suppose. Being able to just use third-party resin parts to make something is quite easy. Having done that, I actually have them here. Having done this video a while ago, the Crimson Lords Blood Angels kill team, this was kind of much. There was difficulties. There was things about doing it. The difficulties came more about incorporating them in a kill team, but actually making them look like Blood Angels was incredibly easy because all the parts did the lifting for these. I think the only Blood Angels pieces on these came from that kit. The head, the little reliquary there, obviously the basing, and the shoulder pads. So everything else is just stock stuff and could be used for any chapter, really. Any thoughts on doing some... Oh, I've read that one. Question idea, just a little idea for Khorne Wolves. I'm planning on a Lord Invocatus using a Battle Leader Invocatus and the big boss wolf from the Sun Chomper Frazzle Kits. I never realized until you start saying them out loud. You kind of don't realize how ridiculous the names for Warhammer models are. It's the whole thing about getting confused between repulsors and impulsors and eradicators and eliminators and decimators or whatever. I don't think decimators are even a unit, actually. Maybe they will be. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, Lord Invocatus is the guy that's on the big robo ball thing, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, no, I think that'd work really well. I think it kind of keeps that Khorne aspect and obviously the wolf aspect. Let's have a look how big. So I'm gonna let's kind of get sidetracked because it's always good fun when we get sidetracked. Where are we here? Hopefully, there we go. Look, that's still working. Perfect. Oh, look at this. I just so happen to be on www.sparepartsemporium.com. Oh, what a surprise. Oh, I just accidentally copied and pasted it into the chat as well. Anyway, so yeah, what was I going to do? This is obviously my website. This is where I sell my dead animal bits. I actually sell these myself, so if you buy anything from here, then I also then I ship them out. And if you ever kind of want, I always write a little note onto the little packing slip as well. But if some people have asked me to sign the boxes, so if you want me to do that, I can do that. Anyway, let's have a look at this website, minicompare.info, I think it is. Right. So I'm going to probably have to hide the face cam just to make it easier. So this site is wonderful. So if you ever need to know if sizes are going to work properly, you basically, there's a big plus sign down on this bottom right, and you type in what you want. So let's go Invocatus. So we get some pictures of the Invocatus. So we have different scales. So let's get a side one here. There isn't always this number. So that places it on to the page. And then what you do is you add another one. And what is it? Frazzle. Okay, there's usually on here. So we'll have to maybe find this manually. But yeah, if you've never used this, this is something that I kind of came across relatively recently. I think in the past year anyway. Are they still in the Oryx? Or they... Oh no, they're... what's the word? What are they called? Not Maggotkin. I'm going to see it and I'm going to remember what they are. Where are they? Where are they? Why can't I see them? Gloomspite Gates. There we go. How could I miss that? Anyway, I'm sure everyone's screaming in the comments right now. So there's Drogs the Sun Chomper. That's quite a big wolf. Let's just add one of those on to just see what the scale's like. And then what we have here is the Snazzle. Is that the one that's been... Okay. Okay, so it basically, yeah, so you can see the size here. It basically gives you a rough kind of comparison between the sizes and scale of the models. So these have all been adjusted for like pixel height. So everything should be scaled pretty accurately. And yeah, I think that would actually work really well. Obviously, you get a little bit of height with the rocks here. You could maybe, if you were worried about the height of the model compared to how it is normally, you might need to maybe chop the little bottom of this rock down here, just so you get a similar height to this. Most people aren't going to quibble over this tiny little bit of height difference, though, so I wouldn't worry. But yeah, I think that would work really well. I do have the model somewhere, I think. I got sent by Games Workshop, but never got around to doing anything with it yet. But yeah, definitely, I think that would work nicely, especially these spikes and things. There's not anything on that guy. If we go to... Where are we here? UK, Age of Sigmar, Destruction, Gloomspite Gates. I think I would, if it was in a small list like that, I would have immediately seen it. Where is he? Where is the guy? There he is. Brogs the Sun Chomper. Do we have a spinny shot? Yes, we do. Okay. So the actual model itself, I mean, this was probably a little bit superfluous as a kind of like sun motif that can probably be removed quite easily. But I think everything else, these straps will be really nice because they can be used to hang skulls off, other tokens and trinkets. But yeah, should work really well. A little bit jiggery pokery around the legs, but should be good. Question: what's the limit on 3D printed parts? Couldn't you use milliput or green stuff to make them no longer 3D printed? It's a interesting one because it really depends really on who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with someone who's I've seen people use 3D printed parts on a predominantly Games Workshop mini army at Warhammer World. Did the tournament organizer see them and was just like, well, it's only like a few shoulder pads or a few trinkets, that's fine, or did they not notice them and that's why they let it slide? Let's let me put the face back on so I can there we go, visually engage with the audience as I'm talking. So yeah, I think if the tournament organizer doesn't see them, obviously you can get away with it. So the less you use, the more likely you are to get away with it. If the tournament organizer doesn't mind a little bit, obviously the less you use, the more likely you are to get away with it. If you're using fully 3D printed parts, people might get annoyed. Again, milliput, I don't think anyone really cares if you sculpt anything yourself. I would be interested to see. I reckon you could probably get away with dead animal bits. I think the biggest reason why you could get away with dead animal bits, and I'm just like, I don't. Just trying to sell them again. Do putting the salesman patter on here. Because they're plastic, and I always think that I can demonstrate this really nicely with this. Actually, I was talking to a few people at UK Games Expo about this, and I wanted to demonstrate it. So this is the Crimson Lords stuff. This is the range of components that you get for, is it Great Eyed Studios, their kind of Crimson Lords range for like Blood Angels. So this shoulder pad, this chainsword, this head, this here, the little tabard thing there as well. I think that's everything. So those are the resin pieces, everything else is plastic, and you can just about, from a distance, it's not really super noticeable, but you can tell there's ever so slightly a little bit more crispness in these resin parts. And that's great because they've got nice detail, but they don't always blend super well into the torso, so you can usually tell. So they stand out a little bit more because dead animal bits are plastic, and whenever you use other plastic components, they tend to blend in a bit more and they can hide. But anyway, 10 of hearts, let your kit bashing history. Yeah, there we go. Look, I've done that. What else do you want? I actually think I'm just going to lock that in as is. I think as it stands, it's okay. Let's maybe shave this down a little bit just so I can get myself a little bit more angle on here. But this is going to be a really nice. I've purposely gone for more of an attainable, more of a straightforward kit bash with this particular build. By all means, everyone, if I start waffling on too much, please do just remind me that this is a kit bashing stream. Okay, so that's giving me a little bit more options. I think having it more upright doesn't work quite as nicely as if it's angled, and I can feel a little bit of resistance there. I think the resistance is coming probably from the elbow at this stage. So I've got two options. I can adjust this piece here. I can remove that down, and that'll, as you can see, as it gets pushed in, it'll start to push against this shoulder pad, so it's giving me a bit of resistance. So if I can remove that, it'll allow me to twist this around a little bit more before it starts to pop out. So let's do that. It's not going to be super noticeable anyway. The shoulder pad doesn't have to fit onto this because it's already attached. As long as we've got enough of a join there to make the parts seem like they're together, we should be okay. I don't know why, but I'm surprised your voice sounds the same on stream. To be honest, based on what people were saying at UK Games Expo, so some people obviously knew that dead animal bits was my thing. Some people knew that I was going to be at UK Games Expo. Some people recognised my face. But there were a few people who came over, came over to look at the dead animal bits, were looking at what was going on, had my models on the table, and they would look at the models, and they would kind of look down at the models and then look at me and look down at the models and go like, "You Pete the Wargamer?" And then, or they would hear me talking, and then they would kind of put two and two together, and it was funny that I think my voice ended up being more recognisable to some people than the actual or maybe my Kitbashers as well, than my face. But I think only having about 30 seconds of face in the beginning of the video, and then these odd live streams that seem to happen once every year at the moment, probably isn't enough. So there we go. Look, that was really easy. Just arm swap. Very, very simple, straightforward. Obviously, the Space Marine, so things tend to work quite nicely, but I actually think that these are very well designed. The fact that Games Workshop could have very easily had these pre-sculpted in as part of the arms. And I think for the most part, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think we can pretty much do it the same. I think all of the arms that come... So if you look at the arms on... Let's have a look at the sprue, actually. We can get a better indication. So if you look at all of the arms that are on here, they actually have full shoulders. So it would have been very easy for them to just have these cut-off ones and just stuck on. But full shoulder, full shoulder, full shoulder. Yeah, perfect. So, yeah. Kudos to whoever designed the sprue. Well done. Because it means you can stick other arms in there. Now we have an option now. So there are two rule options, if I'm not mistaken, with the head takers. I don't know if this says how to build it. So let's grab a Space Wolves rule book. This is my little marker. So when I was doing all the freehands, I used all these as the... yeah, look, here we go. This is what's confusing. So the rule book describes this as the Dusk Wolves, okay? I'm going off on a tangent, I know. Okay, Dusk Wolves. Then we look at the symbol on the big kind of dais thing that we have, and we look for the Spirit Wolf symbol, which is there, number 9, and we look, and that is the Spirit Wolf, okay? So the symbol is a Spirit Wolf, but the company is quite clearly referred to as the Dusk Wolves. But if we look at the transfer sheet, the Spirit Wolves. So what is it? I know this is where you come for all of the Games Workshop drama. It's not Mikey's channel anymore. It's not Hellstorm Wargaming. It's Pete the Wargamer. Okay, right. Let's go for another Khorne Berserker arm. Yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to try and get... I don't know if the pose will be right, though, because the only one that I could find in here that would work... Well, I don't want a plasma pistol. Will it work? Oh, that was it. I got sidetracked from my own sidetrack. I was looking at the rules for the head takers, well, the Wolf Guard. I think is it Wolf Guard, head takers, and Wolf Guard generic. So Wolf Guard head takers, and they can be equipped with all the models in the unit can have their mastercrafted power weapon and storm shield placed with one paired mastercrafted power weapons. Let's go for dual weapons if we can. The fact that people recognise you by your Kitbash is legendary. I did take the more recognisable ones, to be fair. I took the big... Well, who did I take? I took Demon Vulcan. I took Primorc Angron. And I was going to take the new Primarch guy, but I didn't bother. I didn't take him this time. Yeah, so I think it was probably the ones that were more recognisable. I had my Raptors there as well. They didn't have any dead ambits on them, but people did recognise them. But yeah, that was cool. It was good because it was like my work. People had seen my work obviously, and they remembered it enough to be able to kind of put 2 and 2 together and figure it out. Oh, has it got another army actually this work? So we need another weapon arm. The trouble is, if we look at this sprue, as far as I can tell, all of the axe arms are left hands. We've already used that one. So we have 2 choices. We can either, which I think is doable, it does kind of mess up the armor a little bit, but I don't mind the kind of vibe where you have asymmetric armor. So we could go for a power axe on one hand and a chain axe on the other hand. And I guess that kind of neat. I don't know. Is that lazy? What do you guys think? Should we go ahead and chop this off and put a chain axe on there and use this arm? Or should we actually just use a combination of a chain axe and a power weapon axe? I'll let you use that. Can we post polls on this? Yankee, you still on the chat at all on YouTube? I think you are also a mod on YouTube as well. Can I add a poll? I can do a poll. There we go. Wonderful. Okay. Okay, let's start the poll. There we go. I don't mind either way. The chain axe is a little bit more fiddly to do, but does end up with a better result. I think having two chain axes fits nicely. Red Rooster, I say power axe, and this is me saying about me leaving. Bye. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks for joining us. Okay, I think double chain axe is taking the lead. Oh, it's not. It's kind of it's balanced. It's pretty balanced. It's almost like Brexit. 54. 55. Only 29 votes. 133 of you on the stream. Okay. It kind of keeps dipping around that 51. Oh, 50-50. 50-50. Oh, Parax and Chenex. It's flipping around quite a bit at the moment. Let me just turn my alarm off for 8:30. Dismiss that one. Just showing, so I hope that there hasn't been asked yet. Do you have any plans for the next Xenos Primarch yet? Yeah, so a few people I spoke to at UK Games Expo. My next idea, without spoiling it too much, was to create a version of Lorgar that somehow was raised by a gene stealer cult, and whilst he didn't necessarily become genetically infected by gene stealers, the kind of latent psychic malleability of Primarchs was affected by this gene stealer cult, and he effectively became the Four-Armed Emperor, or who they thought was the Four-Armed Emperor. So he was essentially the arrival. So it's kind of, I mean, I don't know if anyone bothers sitting around to the end of those videos that I've been doing, the like the Comrade Kurz and the Primarch Angron. But I think the lore that I'm building up for this, my own heresy that I have, is based around the fact that, is it Chagarath or something like that, the god of Harlequins, the Aldar god, who's the one, the laughing god, is basically, he changed the timeline by preventing chaos from building up, by adjusting the webway and making the Primarchs go towards Xenos faction. So it means that every Primarch ended up in some sort of Xenos faction, and the idea was that the Xenos factions got built up. It kept the chaos, it kept humanity kind of low. They're more like how the Tau is, like a smaller kind of segment of the galaxy. But by doing so, it reduced the effectiveness of chaos, and then so by building up the armies, it can how hopefully of Xenos armies who are less susceptible to chaos, it can make it so that chaos is destroyed on behalf of the Eldar, or at least kept in check. So yeah, I haven't really kind of settled on the idea. I've got a rough idea of how I'm going to approach it. It's probably going to be the Void Dragon model. Take off of any of the obvious Necron bits. Syl-esque head, I think, is about the right size for a head swap. Looks enough like the Lorgar with a little bit of adjustment. And then probably use some of the big Gene's dealer, the one that kind of replaced the Brood Lord. I think his claws are surprisingly big. Get some rending claws and basically have it so he's got 2 human arms, 2 Tyranid arms, and kind of have him almost as this psychic manifestation of the 4-armed Emperor. He's still him, but he's more psychic than anything. But yeah, Votann do count as Xenos, yes. So I know they're technically human, but they are, I suppose, different enough, especially from Games Workshop point of view. They kind of went off and did their thing. So yeah, I'm guessing one of the Primarchs during them would be pretty cool. The obvious ones obviously would be someone like Vulcan or Ferrus Manus, or maybe even Dawn, I think. I don't know if anyone else would necessarily work. Patriarch, that's it. Pete's Heresy, yeah. So I mean, I could call it Pete's Heresy, but I feel like that might be a little bit vain. So I'm going to go for Chigorian Heresy or Chigorian Gambit or something like that. So yeah. Khorne made out of the Centaur from Ageverse. Gotta go fast. Yeah, I think that's going to be the Chaos version of the vote one. We're going to end the poll there. I think 77 votes, 58% of you selected double chain axe, so that is what we're going for. So thank you for making my work a little bit more difficult. I appreciate that. Keeping me in check. Right, so I'm going to pick the original arm that the instructions recommend for this one. I know, shock horror, I'm actually following the instructions for once. Just because I quite like the angle that we have here. So C9. We Paint Minis question. I've been struggling to find a suitable storm shield that fits with the White Scar aesthetic. I have seen people use Longbeard shields from Old World. If you're willing to wait, let's have a quick look. You can blame this sidetrack on We Paint Minis, everyone. Which one am I looking for here? This one, okay. So let's have a look at. Okay, so for anyone looking to do White Scar stuff, then really Cathay is going to be the perfect source of bits. Like, absolutely, it'll be the go-to source. Anyone who's doing anything Horus Heresy or onwards, you're going to want to look at these. So if you can wait for these, I mean, I don't know when they're going to get announced. They got announced at Adepticon, so probably through the summer, I don't know. We'll see. These shields, I'm not sure what the scale like, maybe mini compare's gone on, but these shields would be fantastic. I mean, a lot of the components, depending on how everything breaks down, there's so much cool stuff here that would be perfect for White Scars. So yeah, if you ever want to do any White Scar stuff, then these are the guys to pick up. I think even just the top knots and stuff, depending on how they break down off the helmets. Yeah, these are slightly large, I think, these shields. So maybe the Jade Lancers would be the best, but that's what I go for. And then paint them red, easy peasy. If you're willing to go third party, Archers Forge are some good ones. Yeah, there's always going to be good third party options. Again, just keeping within that Games Workshop sphere, then these are the good options there. So I wonder if they're on here actually at the moment. If I remove these, they usually get added in pretty quick. Cathay. No, interesting. Only the one. maybe it's because they don't have many individual images yet. They can't really do it as easily. They just have the single model. But yeah, I think all these would be really cool. Really, really cool. It's let me get rid of my face so you can see it. Yeah, all this kind of stuff would be very cool for White Scars, so yeah. Right, so I completely forgot the number. We're looking for C9. C9. There we go, that's the one. So we can grab that off the sprue like so. And again, this one, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, I'm probably not going to worry too much about removing the mold lines because I can spend so much time removing mold lines. It just ends up being a tedious thing to do, especially when stuff gets hidden. I think anything like this was probably going to be a bit more obvious, but stuff like in the arms, even the elbow might be hidden. But I'm just going to do a very quick cleanup of the actual sprue tabs themselves. They're going to be the most noticeable things. What's the comparison website called? Let's drop the link in there. This is like an independent one, so obviously use at your own risk. I think it's pretty... It's fine though, I've been using it. There you go. Just drop that in the chat, so hopefully that will give you a little bit more assistance whenever you're kit bashing. Thoughts on turning a Jabberslith into Erdan the Witness for a Nurgle Corrupted Stormcast? Well, first of all, the Jabberslith is it Forge World resin now? I don't know if I don't think it's particularly. I don't think it's a plastic kit, is it? It's very so it would make it a little bit more difficult to work with. I'm not familiar with Erdan the Witness. I remember the name, but I can't quite. Oh, hang on. Is that the Stormcast model? Let me double check. Remember myself. Oh yeah, that's the one with the on the big eagle. Okay, Iridan the Witness. Jabberslith could work. You would probably struggle. The main thing you struggle with would be getting the saddle on top of it if you wanted to Stormcast on there. Still. You would maybe be better off. It's not a bad option. I'm just kind of thinking about the logistics of actually working with the working with the actual material. It could be tricky. Right, so let's combine this axe with this one. So, oh Jesus, dropping on the floor. So we have the axes, and I think the best place to cut will be just above this line here on this particular axe, and then we're going to cut just below that line there on this axe, and that should be a good kind of contact point. It keeps the height of the axe the same, and there's a nice clean cutting point that we can use. I probably I should probably pin these, but I think for the purposes of for the extra work it takes and to be the tedium of watching me do a pinning, well, I'm not going to worry. We'll make do. We'll make do. Stormcast on Griffin I plan on using to create a general on Griffin. Okay. Yeah, I think you could do it. As an idea, I think it works really nicely. The model itself is very Nurgle coded, but I think the aesthetics work. I think it's more about how you would approach it, more about how you would go about actually working and achieving that kit bash in general, and the difficulty in doing so. I'm also not sure if that's an older model that's come back, so I don't know what the quality is like. Some of the older bits have been quite good, some have not been so much. Okay, so we're going to make that cut just where I said, just below one of these little ridges here. Make a nice clean cut with the clippers, and then we're going to do the same on this axe here. Again, we're going to use that line. And really, when you're doing anything like this, you want to make sure that the cuts that you make are using existing guidelines as much as possible, just because it means that your cut's going to be much more perpendicular with the surface, or it's going to be cleaner or more even in general. If you start trying to make cuts elsewhere, it's a little bit tricky. You can go off at an angle, and then when you glue them together, things can be wonky. I'm happy for the return of the greatest faction, the Beastmen. Yeah, so one of the things I'm really disappointed by for the Beastmen, though, is because obviously they're old world now. The endless spells that they released for Beastmen are no longer in existence, I think. Yeah, they won't be. I don't think you can buy them anymore. So all of a sudden, there has been the loss of all of those little birds. And I think one of the birds that I used on, I haven't got him here, but my Laius Isodon conversion for the Raptors, the little bird that I put on was from that kit. And at the time of making him, I think Beastmen were still very much in existence, but at the moment they're not. And because endless spells are pretty much Age of Sigmar only, then we have a problem. Okay, so like I said before, I would normally pin this, and if you were following this at a later date or planning to do this in the future, please put a pin in this, because that is just asking for problems. For the sake of doing a quick fix on a live stream, don't worry about it. Longer term models, definitely commit to that pin. If you don't know how to pin, pretty much watch any of my videos. There's a little guide in there all the time. Okay, so I'm going to put the arm in first, just so I can make sure that the actual chain axe faces the right way compared to the axe. Question, what brand are those clippers? These are the Redgrass Game clippers. I think there should be, I don't know if there is, there should be a link to them down in the description. I've got like an affiliates link, so if you're interested in those, you can go check it out in the description. They do two different variants as well. They do these ones, which are clippers, and then they do these ones, which are sprue cutters. So these are a little bit more, so you can see the difference in them. These are a little bit stubbier, if I actually can see the blades. So these are the clippers, these are the sprue cutters. These are a little bit stubbier, these are a little bit more pointy and long, and these are more designed for getting into those little hard to reach points on a sprue, and kind of it pokes into those gaps a bit more easily. Like this kind of thing is really, really hard to clip away cleanly. So yeah, they're basically the same thing. They cut the same, but they're a little bit more pointier, a little bit more elongated. But yeah, they're good for removing stuff from the sprue. Those are good for doing adjustments, but again, they're pretty interchangeable. It's just that one's longer and one isn't. These may be sharper. I'm not sure. I can't guarantee, but yeah. Redgrass Games is the manufacturer. So let's stick that chain axe, and then I've probably officially done more kit bashing in this stream in the hour and a half that I've been doing it, and I probably have done some other streams where I get distracted. We're going to get distracted by White Dwarf at some point, because it's not a Pete the Wargamer stream unless we end up on Warhammer Vault. Okay. What have we got here? There we go. See, this is what I mean. This is why pinning is great. I could super glue it, but once you get actual glue to work, it does work really well. But I need to maybe hold the axe a little bit higher up. Maybe we'll pin this in the end anyway. We'll see. Okay, it seems to be holding. Your Twitch isn't working. Yeah, so I think from based on what some people have said in the chat, I'm using Stream Elements, and it seems like Twitch have updated the API and Stream Elements haven't. So there's been a bit of a disconnect between the two, and I don't know how to cancel the stream on Twitch without also cancelling the stream on YouTube. So for the time being, Twitch is just kind of in a weird limbo state at the moment. But yeah, there we go. That's what we have so far. Very, very, a lot of work, a lot of achievement for a, how long have we been going for? An hour and a half. Oh yeah, look. See, this is the problem. This is why I like to pin. I had a comment fairly recently, I think it might have been the last video, was saying that, oh, I don't know why you would bother pinning anything because plastic glue is going to be really strong, and it's like, this is why. Because a pin is just going to offer so much more protection, because if you knock that, it's got 1 point of failure. If you've got a pin, it gives it much more. Yeah, I think I might just actually go and pin. I think the amount of time this is taking me... Oh, I'm just going to pin it. Jesus. Let's just pin it. I can pin quite quickly if I'm... So, little trick with pinning as well is if you use a very, very fine tip of the scalpel and just do a very... kind of get that lined up and just make a very gentle mark in roughly the center, then it means that when you put your pin vise in, you can actually attach it and it won't slip when you start drilling, which is quite handy. So yeah, all that time that I spent trying to avoid pinning, and I just ended up pinning anyway. Perfect, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. Yep. Get a hole, and then, even if the hole isn't perfectly centered, you can adjust the hole's position a little bit when you can actually come to drill it like so. So let's drill that in. Perfect. Okay, and we are done. And I just pulled that arm off. Right, so we need some wire, we need some super glue, and we also need the clippers as well. So where's the super glue? Oh, is that fresh glue? Need that pin vise. My one is awful. So it's a strange one. The reason why I've kept it is because obviously it's a very old Games Workshop one, and I kept it because it's really nice. It's always worked really well. It's not as the new one that kind of like brass one that they did just wasn't quite as nice. So I kept this one, and obviously with a pin vise you can change the bits, and when you change the bits, it actually, that's the bit that wears out for the most part. The rest of it is, unless you really, really do some damage. I think I've had this one for probably... It's the really old Citadel one. You can just about see it there, the Citadel, and you can see how worn it is. That used to be a bit more embossed. I don't even know how old this is. This is probably about... How old am I? 30? Man, I'm trying to think how old it is. Maybe 18 years? Possibly? I don't know. It's still going. It's had new drill bits, I suppose, so that's kind of the main thing that wears out. Did I drill the hole big enough? Let's maybe make it a little bit bigger than I thought. Are you going to use the Chaos Power Pack or a Space Wolf one? Probably the Chaos one, mainly because the armor is very Primaris coded at the moment, so I need to do a little bit more work to get that back to more of a Chaos appearance. I don't mind a little bit of that aesthetic because I'm not a huge... Probably one of the things I like the least about Chaos models is the overuse of trim. I think trim has its place. I think it's good on shoulder pads, but I think it's a little bit unnecessary for a lot of the factions. I actually really like how they handle it for the Slaanesh models, because the trim there is actually, whilst you thought it would be a little bit more ostentatious on Slaanesh, it's a little bit more reserved. Like, there's only one at the top, there's only one at the top, there's not one at the bottom there. The actual chest panel as well doesn't have around the gorget and the chest, it's just like one piece. So yeah, quite like how they did it for Slaanesh. Okay, let's try and glue this in then, which is what we should have done in the first place. There we go. So much easier. So as we've learned today, if you take any tips or tricks from this particular stream, then it should be, don't even be tempted not to pin. It just makes everything so much easier, and that's just going to sit there forever now. Perfect. Had the same pin vice for 18 years. Yeah, it's the Triggers broom, or I suppose the more cultured version of the ship of Theseus. But yeah, I think Triggers broom is much more of an apt. I would say everything, all that part is original. So it's only this part that isn't. That's probably been replaced a few times, but yeah. What type of wire do you use for pinning? I actually had to order some more. So this reel I've had for a long time, and this is a fresh one that I had to order because it's getting a little bit low. So this is what it's like when it comes fresh. And the same guy on eBay sold me this, and I think I bought this like 6 years ago, something stupid. But yeah, I think it's, what is it listed as? Let me find the exact eBay listing, because I think it's often referred to as different things. It is 1mm by 10m, 19 SWG, whatever that is. Stainless steel wire, forestry, craft, bonsai, and fishing lures. So 1mm steel wire is basically it. I had a full 3,000 point Night Lord's Army, I assume, and then Games Workshop changed the point count, and now it's only 2,500. Obviously, that's just genius marketing, because now you've got to go out and buy 500 more points worth of miniatures, and it's good. I don't know. Some people would be really pumped by that because it means they can have more miniatures on the table, which, depending on what kind of player you are, I guess that's good or bad. Ben Amundsen, I missed your comment. Hey Pete, love the videos, and you have inspired me to try and kitbash my own chapter. Basically, the idea is a group of Iron Warriors becoming disillusioned with Perturabo, join the Iron Cage, and eventually turn to Dawn for assistance. Fast forward to the current age, their loyal semi-heretical chapter with both Iron Warriors and Imperial Fist Gene Seed. Is there a kit you recommend? So, I would imagine that when you say heretical, you don't mean that they are heretical in themselves. They're more heretical in the sense that they are, because they're Iron Warriors Gene Seed, and it's kind of like one of those weird things where whilst if some people found out, people wouldn't be happy, they'd get away with it. Obviously, you've got to look at it from the story. I think the story makes more sense. So if they've gone to the you said the Imperial Fist, didn't you? Where was it? Imperial Fist. Okay. So what I would do if that was me, I would look at it from the position of having almost a separate faction, or like a smaller faction within a larger faction. So if you look at things like the Dark Angels, how they have the Deathwing and they have Ravenwing, and obviously they have Firewing and Dreadwing and stuff like that, and they also kind of have like the Redeemed have come back. I would view them as being effectively Imperial Fists, but almost like a specialized version of it. So if you think about Imperial Fist, their main thing is fortifications. Iron Warriors are also into it, but they're kind of more siege specialists. They have more of a direct approach, don't they? So you could almost have it as a group of Imperial Fists, which are more siege assault troopers. So less using heavy ordnance, or maybe using heavy ordnance. Basically, imagine some Imperial Fists who've gone very, very heavy on siege assault. It's not making much sense because I'm still formulating the idea, but yeah, that's how personally I would approach that. Use Imperial Fists as the basis, and then kind of look around for kits which would fit into that Less of theme, less of the Iron Warriors theme, but more of their personality and how they would act on the battlefield, and then using equipment that reflects that. That's how I would go with that. Other videos you've had to scrap because the kitbash fell through. Yeah, so some of them get revisited in the future and kind of get reworked. Some of them never really get it off the drawing board. I think there's not many videos that kind of get really far. The only one that actually got quite far, I've showed this off on a previous stream, was this guy that I built, and I never actually, I kind of nearly finished painting. I think most of the model was pretty much done. This was for my Nurglneth, and it was the, is it Balthanos? I did like a Balthanos conversion as well. And this has been on my desk pretty much since this guy came out, which is maybe like a year or two ago. I can't remember when it was. It might have been 2 years ago now, because yeah, Age of Sigmar got re-released last year. So yeah, so this has been like a to-do project. I filmed everything. Everything was like I was just painting the model basically, because the painting was going to be the same as I painted other stuff, but I just never got around to finishing it. And it's a shame really, because I never find the time. And part of the reason why I didn't finish this, when I started it, I wanted it for my own force, and I think another video came out, or there was another kind of launch of a big thing, which I thought, well, I wanted to make sure I kind of scheduled a video for. But yeah, it's kind of like it's there on the back burner. All the footage is still safe and ready to be edited, I suppose, but it'd be a bit weird if I kind of come back and... Well, I suppose the good thing is I do all my voiceovers later on. So the footage itself would look pretty much the same as what I film now, maybe, with a few differences. But yeah, I could probably get away with redoing that at some point. And maybe I will. I still need to finish painting it, but yeah. I've not done any Nurglneth stuff for a while, so that'd be pretty cool to do that. Anyway, now that we've finally finished the dual chain axes, so this is one of the head takers with the two weapons, which is kind of represented in the rules section. So we need a head. Again, I was tempted to use one of the bald heads, the bear heads, but I think I'm going to commit to a bunny ears, just simply because I think that has the most striking effect, especially with that little kit bash, that Photoshop bash that I did on the stream thumbnail. Let's see what it looks like in person. So if we grab this guy, let me pop him in there. Okay, so it's definitely intersecting a little bit with this, but actually the position that it fits nicely in does work okay, I think. So I probably need to sort this out first, but I'm going to go back and probably remove that and then I'll put the head in. So I can probably cover it up, but I'll just get away with them. The amount of projects I have dropped is crazy. I was thinking, do them as shorts, Pete, just to show off. Yeah, it's. I would do the shorts, and the thing is, I quite like the idea of doing them as shorts, but it would save a lot of time in terms of the extra stuff, because so my videos I don't know how you find yours and how you find your process, but a big part of mine is planning, just going through the process of deciding what you want to do and then thinking about how to approach it and how to tackle it is actually a surprisingly large part of the process. So unfortunately, when I start a project, it can get abandoned quite early on, so I don't really have much to show for it. And the stuff that does make it towards the point where I actually have a model to show is kind of few and far between, because I've either given up by that point, or I've completely changed direction and kind of tried to do something else. So I don't often have much. I think the streams are probably the biggest source of half-finished ideas, just because I kind of start a stream and then I have an idea and I never get around to finishing it. I still have the guy that's the Mechanicus sniper guy who's on the stilts that I did on a stream once. He is just a legs and torso. I know exactly where he is. He's on a shelf over there. And I need to probably finish him off, but I think I kind of got a bit bored, because I think the most of the actual kit bashing side of the thing was the the leg adjustment, the rest of the model would pretty much just follow the instructions as intended. So it would be quite boring to finish that one off. So again, that's technically an unfinished model. I'll probably never get around to painting it either. So yeah, there ends up being a lot of projects that I don't finish, and I don't always know what to do with the little footage that I have without completing the project. But yeah, I've always thought about doing a video about things that which maybe doing a list of ideas that I've had or wanted to tackle, and then talking about them, and then letting people decide which one I should try and pursue and try and get finished, and that might be fun. Your Nurganeth were what originally brought me to a channel. Thank you very much. Yeah, they were a great fun to build, and they're probably the most consistent army that I have. Do I have any? I don't know. Did I? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I had to add some more stuff to it for Spearhead. Oh yeah, I added the big tree lord, didn't I? I forgot I added him. So yeah, when I kind of came back to it, and when the new Age of Sigmar version got released, and I added the big tree lord guy, that was good fun. I enjoyed that one. So yeah, maybe the Balthanos video might get released at some point. Maybe if I need a quicker video. I still need to finish painting it. I still need to do the scripting, the voiceover, the editing, and everything, which takes time. So it's not a quick release kind of video. But yeah, maybe this would have been easier to do before I attached everything together. But we can manage. I've been wanting to make a Krork-led force of more intelligent knobs as a freebooter warband/can. What would make their parity flavor more Viking? Oh, that make their parity flavor more Viking. Using a bunch of pre-9th edition Space Wolf bits. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, a lot of the older Space Wolf bits are obviously quite generic loose parts like pelts and runes and things like that. I think you could get away with that. I think even, as someone mentioned earlier, how they wanted to do something along the lines of a they use some of the Age of Sigmar goblin stuff. You could maybe even incorporate some of that, because there's a lot of wolf stuff in there that would blend in quite nicely if you did want to continue the wolf thing. If you're looking for a continue the Viking aesthetic, then Age of Sigmar Chaos stuff is pretty good. Warriors of Chaos and Dark Oath especially, they've got a very cool Viking vibe. So if you can incorporate some of the parts from those, that'd probably help as well. Do you have any recommendations for Primus Bionics? I love the Bionic leg from the Iron Hand guy from Kill Team Cassius, but has not sure how easy it would be to graft to a Primus Marine. So, a couple of options. I've seen people use the Adeptus Mechanica stuff from Horus Heresy. They're really cool. They work very well for this kind of thing because they're about... I forget what the name of them are. I'll quickly show you just because it's easier than trying to vaguely describe them whilst messing up. So we need Horus Heresy, Cult Mechanicum. So we've got two options. So these guys, the Ursarax and the Thalax, they work quite nicely. You can probably repurpose some of their legs and even some of their arms as well. Those are quite good. Who else? These guys are probably a little bit too small and don't really have as much in the way of bionics. They do have some, but they're a little bit more utilitarian than Space Marine. Like a claw's pretty cool, but I don't think it'd work. You could maybe repurpose it, cut it down a little bit to find some use there. The other option that you have is a little bit more... other games... Legions, Adeptus, Legions, I think. Mechanicum. So I've seen people use these, the different kind of knight models. We can use mini compare. The scale is a little bit off, but you can get away with it if you just paint it silver. So if we remove this guy, and I think these guys have Legions Imperialis. Do they have them? Maybe they don't. Can't see them. Oh yeah, there they are. Legions Imperialis, Mechanicum. Nope, they might be in. Nope, they're not an Adeptus. Oh, Legions. No, there we go. Night Titans. Okay, so I think the Questoris is a little bit too small, but I think the Cerastus might work. Click on one of those, and yeah. So if we get that, and then we get a Space Marine in here as well. Just get a generic intercessor. A regular one. Let's go for that one. So yeah, you can see a little bit taller, maybe. I think not exactly, but you can definitely see how you can reuse. Oh, let me remove myself so you can actually see what's going on here. Yeah, so if you use this guy on the left, you can probably repurpose some parts and use on here. Maybe some of the smaller knights would work. If we go back to, if we take this out and then go back to Legion Imperialis, Knight Titans, and look at armigers would be way too small. Let's try Questoris. Okay, Questoris might work as well. They're not as small as I thought. Warlords would be way too big. Asterix, again, that could work as well. Reavers would be too big, yeah. They're more like Dreadnought size. Yeah, so these two guys would work quite well for that kind of thing. Converted a Krieg Engineer into a Cadian Commissar. I'm pretty happy with it. The Krieg Engineer was Model of the Month. Oh, okay, yeah, pretty cool. Because they have that kind of vibe, don't they? That great cloak vibe that you can repurpose. So, this is what we have so far. I'm quite happy with the wolf iconography staying. I don't need to change that too much, the bit on the belt. That is all fairly generic Space Wolf stuff, so I don't mind that. That can stay. I'm just going to clean this chest up a little bit more. It's a little bit too bumpy. Again, this would have been much easier to do earlier on, but I was just so eager to add some chain axes that I completely forgot. The only thing is these guys aren't exactly cheap, so you probably only use them for unit leaders or sparingly in squads. Yeah, so I think that's the only thing with, I mean, it's the thing with any kit bash really. If you're doing a full army kit bash, I always think that a great way of keeping the cost down and keeping the effort down, the effort required to achieve them down, is to just go ahead and focus on unit leaders, characters, things like that. Because you can get enough flavor with just those models, and even if you're playing games and stuff with them, there is certainly enough of an incentive to keep your unit leaders alive that they tend to be the last ones surviving anyway, so your kind of more generic guys disappear. So by the time you've kind of finished on the battlefield, most of your converted guys are still there because they're the ones that you want to keep alive, you want to protect a little bit more. The battle line stuff, the chaff, you don't need to worry about converting that quite as much. Kitbash John Warhammer. That'd be a good little April Fool's video, wouldn't it? Okay, I think that's smooth enough for what I need it for. So, we've got the head. The head's already picked out. That's pretty... It's pretty straightforward for that one. We need a few extra bits. There's not enough detail on the chest there, so let's see what we can find in the old World Eater sprue. So I'm not expecting an awful lot. We have these chains, which look really nice. I think they would look nice across there, maybe against the backpack, but I'm not really feeling that for the chest. What else do we have on here? Again, not much. A few little chain items that we can attach to the sides, but I don't think those are going to work well on the chest itself. Maybe the chains would. It's not necessary. We don't necessarily have to have something there. Some skulls. We can maybe make a little skull necklace kind of deal, same as what I did on this guy. If I just chop down the skulls to make them fit more easily against the chest, that would work. I'm using my Space Wolf box to kitbash a homebrew White Scar successor. Yeah, I think that's a really good use of it, because I think I'm really, genuinely really impressed with the Space Wolf kit. I think the new Space Wolf stuff has been some of the better Primer stuff released. If you're a Blood Angels player, then sorry that you didn't get as good stuff as every other guy did, but unfortunately that's how it goes. The Space Wolf players did definitely get the better end of that stick, I think. Yeah, so I'm not really feeling much from the World Eater sprue there. In terms of accessories, I don't think there's an awful lot on these sprues. This is the thing. I'm a little bit disappointed that some of these sprues don't tend to have those extra little bits. They're all sculpted on, which is fine because, yeah, it looks cool. But if you're doing kit bashing and conversions, you don't really get much in the way of options. So, what have we got? I might actually go for some of my dead animal bits, actually. Let's see what we could use out of these. Just shoehorn those in, because why not? We've got bones, we've got the antlers, possibly the hands might be a little bit too much for these. I've always imagined those as being a bit more Night Lordy, but I think they could work. Again, the horns could work, but no, probably a bit too much. Teeth aren't a bad option. Teeth are fairly generic. Those would have been really good on the sea wolves, but I want to be quite careful with that being like a preview video. I don't want to add some more. Add some battle damage. Yeah, I could do actually. How'd you get the ideas for conversions? Did it just pop into your head and you're like, oh yeah, let's look at how to make it reality? Yeah, to be fair, some of it is that. Sometimes it's people will give me a... It depends. It varies. Sometimes people give me an idea and they'll be like, there's this particular model that I would like to see. Is there a way of doing it? And I'll be like, okay, let's think about how we can achieve that, and then kind of go from there. Sometimes it's more of an idea that I have a cool idea and I want to use the cool idea. And then I figure out how to do it or how I can shoehorn that in. So the demon stuff ends up being, the demon Primox end up being more about that I want to do something with the kit rather than it being a case of it being I want to do something with the end goal in mind. So sometimes I start with a kit and work my way backwards to an idea, and sometimes I start with an idea and then work my way towards what kit I would need. Another good example of that was the big rat guy, the big the custom Primarch that I did for the Second Legion. That was very much I've got this model, I want to do something cool with it. How can I use it for 40k? Let's do a Primarch. Okay, let's add battle damage. I think it kind of helps to break up the cleaner lines of the chest there as well. Let's do a few. Not too much. I'm not a huge fan of doing really over the top chip damage on models as much anymore. I think sometimes it can be a little bit too heavy, because I think you need to remember that the damage is proportionate to the model itself. If you go too heavy, it looks a little bit too damaged. I'll just do maybe one more. I think 2 will be plenty. Breen from Red Heavy Minis here. Love the Kitbashing you're doing. Blood Wolves are gnarly. Thank you very much. It's yeah, it's one of those ones where like it's the idea that I've had for a while, and I thought, wow, new Space Wolf kits, new Space Wolf components. Why not? Why not go ahead and use some to make some Chaos Wolves? I'm surprised I didn't. To be honest, I'm really surprised that I actually went and didn't do a kit bash with them with the box, and actually just built them as Space Wolves. But at least I did do some conversions, so still counts. How long does it take to go from ideas to reality? It can really vary. There is so much variation in that question. Sometimes I will literally get an idea and then be like, okay, let's do that. This idea was very much like a last minute one. I knew I wanted to do something chaos, and I've almost formulated it partly with some of the stuff I've done in the past, but actually using this model in combination with the kits that I wanted to was a little bit more of like a spur of the moment thing, and that idea kind of came about as more of like a quick thing. So this has gone from an idea to execution quite quickly, because again, it's Space Marines on Space Marine parts. Things tend to work nicely together. Other ideas take a lot longer. I've got an idea which I've had brewing for about a year, probably longer actually. I did start it, but I wasn't sure where to go with one of the next steps, and kind of ended up putting that on the back burner, and I never really got back around to it. Not because I'm not happy with the idea, but I think it's a good idea, and so I wanted to make sure it was executed properly. And it was also the idea to do something for hopefully a series, or at least open the door. I wouldn't commit to anything just yet, because it took me a year to do one. So if I wanted to do quite a few, it would have been more difficult. So yeah, it does vary. I know it's the vaguest answer in the world, but there is there's just different times for different things. Sometimes an idea comes together really easily, sometimes it takes a little bit more working, and I don't really think there's any particular rhyme or reason as to what makes it fall into either category. I'm kind of upset that there aren't a lot of converted Psych and Mage models for Khorne. There are Gore Mages of the Traitor Guard, Blood Pact. Yeah, I think it's because Khorne's very against psychic abilities, but it would have been pretty cool to see more of that kind of priest aspect of it, so less psychic, more channeling of the gods. I mean, obviously the rules kind of have that kind of vibe and things like the Skull Takers and stuff like that, but I know what you mean. It would be nice to have more of some sort of priest vibe. Would be pretty cool. Okay, so we've got a little bit of damage in there now, a little bit more than what we had before. Okay, so it looks a little bit more chaotic than it did. Again, we've tried to move away from... It still needs to be recognisable as a Space Wolf, it just needs to not be recognisable as a Loyalist one. I think, as someone mentioned earlier, having the Khorne backpack. Having the Khorne backpack as opposed to a regular style backpack would probably help with this as well. So let's see what this looks like with one of these. We're going to go for, let's see, because the only thing is I'm just worried about the arms. So that one might poke up a bit too much. We're going to go for the one that has the 2 skulls in the middle. Let's do this one. That might be a little bit easier. So Gary Heathorn, have you ever thought about a new Slanesh kit about kitbashing your own Lucius the Eternal? I think you would do an amazing job. It's funny because Lucius Eternal is one of those models which was on my radar for quite a while, mainly because it didn't have a plastic option, especially when I used to do the plastic conversions of characters and things like that. And then we started getting a lot of plastic versions of them. So that kind of went out the window very quickly. And I think it was around the time that I did was it Huron Blackheart, the Red Corsairs guy, that I think people suggested Lucius being one of them because he was quite an older model. But yeah, I think with him having his own model now, it would be, I don't know what I would add to that. I think the model expresses what it needs to. You could probably push things further, I'm sure. You could maybe go down the aspect of making his armor look even more like it has these writhing faces in it, and really selling that aspect to it. But I think overall, I think the model's pretty solid, and I don't really know what I would add to it. Are you going to make more Space Wolf Demon Princes of Khorne? I would love to say yes, definitely. But I guess I ran out of steam because it was partly the fact that Games Workshop changed the rules. I think the points costs increased or something like that, or changed in some way. The Force Organization did, which meant that I couldn't run my list of, I think, was it 8 Demon Princes? Was it 7 Demon Princes and an Angron model, or was it the, I can't remember. Either way, whatever it ended up being, I wasn't able to do it anymore, and I kind of lost a bit of momentum when I thought, well, they're all going to end up being very, very similar to each other because they're all going to be Demon Princes, and there's only so much you can do in terms of adjusting the pose. So I kind of got to the point where I was thinking, I've maybe bitten off more than I can chew, and committed to more. I love the idea, and I quite like the idea of tackling different Space Wolf characters in their Chaos versions, their Demon Prince versions, and sitting down and really thinking about how those different aspects, oh yeah, the backpack works quite nicely, perfect, how those different aspects of their Loyalist versions could be interpreted as a demon. Yeah, I would love to, but I think the actual, as an idea, it works really well, but the logistics just weren't there, in my opinion. Look at that, we might actually get a fully completed conversion, I think. There you go. Just pop a head in there. Now there are little things we can probably add to this. I'm sure we can go ahead and add more chains and maybe some more skulls. But I think as an actual core appearance, I'm really happy with how it's come out. I think the actual main body of the model was quite a simple and straightforward conversion. So yeah, if you're ever in the market for doing some Khorne Corrupted Space Wolves, then this is probably a good option for you. Arjat Rockfist as a Hellbrute or Obliterator. Yeah, I think that would work quite nicely. Definitely with him being a Terminator as well. He has that kind of heft. But yeah, a Hellbrute would be pretty cool. Or even just a Demon Prince which had a little bit more bulk to it. Maybe like base it around a Contemptor or something similarly sized. Okay. Are you going to use your converted Angron model for this Space Wolf Khorne warband? Yeah, I mean, this is probably not going to be the most fleshed out project in the world, but if I can come back on a stream and I can kind of do some little bits and bobs here and there, the Demon Princes are a lot more involved than these single models. But yeah, I would really love to expand these out a lot more in the future, but it is literally just finding the time to. And when I've got other ideas, and obviously part of it is also the YouTube aspect of things. Whilst I think I can get away with always doing kit bashes, you don't want to be too much of a one-trick pony in terms of what you do. You want to kind of find a nice balance between offering new stuff but also offering familiar stuff. And I think always doing chaos stuff would probably get boring quite fast, and it would take a long time. The Raptors is probably where I make the exception, simply because I usually do kit bashes for Space Marines anyway. They're probably the most easy to explain to people and probably the most approachable for beginner kit bashes. So I like doing those because it's a good way of exploring different units I wouldn't normally get to do, and it's a good way of demonstrating how conversions can be applied to full units. So the Raptors is the exception. I will always work on the Raptors slowly. I will have more ideas for those coming soon. I've kind of hit a little bit of a wall with that project as well, because I have out of the rough army list that I made for this, I was going to basically have 2 of the Land Raiders that I built. I actually have the Land Raider here for anyone who hasn't seen the video. 2 of the Land Raiders that I built in that list, and I really enjoyed building this, but to go around and have to rebuild this entirely again, I couldn't really do a video about that because it's very much the exact same word for word. Everything would be the same. There might be slight variations with maybe some of the extra equipment and storage items and such, but for the most part it would be the same, painted the same, built the same. Nothing would be different. So I can't really do that as a video, so that's kind of out of the picture. I need to find the time to do that on my own time. It might be a good stream build, I guess, just kind of not really showing much, maybe kind of demonstrating a few things I couldn't do so much on stream. So maybe next week I need to buy another Land Raider and another turret as well. But anyway, yeah. And then the next unit that I had were the Eradicators as well. So I need to do those. We Paintman's got to do a video together in the future sometime. I would love to do a kit bash clash of sorts. Yeah, definitely. I think again, I'm one of the probably one of the more flaky YouTubers. I think, especially in the YouTube sphere, I'll always end up making plans with people, and I always want to do it, but then by the time I actually kind of think, okay, well, let's sit down and actually do this, it's 6 months later and people's plans have changed and the idea that we had didn't really work out. I think I've done one collaboration actually that worked out okay, that I planned out and did, and that was during COVID lockdown, and it was with Lockie from Zorpazorp. We did some Blood Ravens kit bashes together using the new stuff, and that was one thing. I don't know how it came about. It was maybe just the stars aligned on that one, but yeah, I definitely would be interested in doing something, but we'll don't hold your breath. Again, I did say I was going to do a full 8 Demon Prince army list and never got around to it, so I'm not exactly the most reliable in that regards. More Dornian Heresy stuff. Yeah, Dornian Heresy Loyalists. Yeah, I've done a lot of Chaos stuff, so maybe it's time to give some of the Loyalist stuff a look. Yeah, maybe looking at some of the Demon Primarchs and how they would be. So the problem, I would say, with a lot of the main timeline Demon Primarchs or Chaos Primarchs and putting them into a non-Chaos Corrupted timeline, is that they often just look the same as their 30k equivalents. So it's very hard to say say this is the case. Now I know the plastic Primarchs that they've released for 40k are quite different than the ones that they're on 30k, and I can go down that avenue, but I just don't think the differences are often as big as having here's Leman Russ and here he is as a demon, because technically all of the traitor Primarchs were loyalists at some point, so doing a loyalist version of them is harder. Conrad Kerr's worked out quite well. He's got a very strong aesthetic, and it was the challenge more there was doing something in plastic. But maybe I should just kit bash all the Primarchs using the line kit, so maybe we do that. But yeah, maybe some regular units instead would be works. Maybe some like Night Lords, Primaris. We could do something like that in the future. But yeah. Right, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I managed to do it without looking at any White Dwarfs, so I think that's I'm pretty much did what I set out to do. I was going to do a Chaos Corrupted Wolf Guard head taker. I think it looks Khorne enough. We've got enough Khorne components in there. Chain axes doing a lot of heavy lifting there. The little Khornate symbols on the axes work nicely, and of course the bunny ears are very indicative of Khorne miniatures. Yet we still have a lot of Space Wolf flair. The actual cloak itself, there's wolf iconography on the little rondels there, and also some Space Wolf stuff. So I think it actually sells it quite nicely as a Space Wolf who's fallen to Khorne. Color wise, I would probably go with the classic grey with splashes of red. So I think I would go for the grey armor. So kind of how I did the 13th Company guy. Very similar in style to this guy. Metallics would be the same. And then kind of the splash of red here would definitely be more organized. I think the backpacks would be grey, but I think all the heads would be the bright red. A little bit like how the World Eaters originally started out with the pure white and blue armor, and then slowly transitioned to a white and red, and then eventually went full red. So yeah, it's 4 odd, 9 even. Unfortunately, the stream's wrapping up now, so yeah, it was cool to be back streaming again. I'm going to try and do these more. Again, as I was saying before, these don't. I always say, yeah, let's go for it. But yeah, hopefully we'll go. Feral Painter, how's it going, mate? It was really good spending time with you on UK Games Expo. Those cards that you gave me went down very well with my wife, so yeah, thank you very much for those. They're very, very cool. But yeah, if you haven't done so already, I'm going to give Feral Painter a plug. I'm also going to give We Paint Minis a plug. If you enjoy kit bashing, same kind of stuff that I do, a lot of kind of cool Space Marine characters, refreshing of old miniatures into plastics, then definitely check out We Paint Minis. And if you are an enjoyer of the Grimdark, then the Feral Painter is definitely the way to go. But yeah, both of them very nice guys, and if you want to check their stuff out, definitely give them a sub and a follow. Yeah, and I think we're going to kind of wrap things up a little bit there, but it was really, really good to speak to everyone and be back on stream. I'm going to really try hard to be back on stream next Wednesday again. If you have any suggestions for what you would like to see doing on stream, I think this video will go up as like a VOD afterwards, so just leave those in the comments. I'll try and keep track of them. I might do like a post on the community tab or something like that as well, to ask if people have any ideas of what I could do on streams. Not just kit bashing, if you want to see some gaming streams as well, I do enjoy doing those as well. But yeah, in general, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. There is another video going up this weekend, fingers crossed. Might get pushed back. Just a painting video, nothing too serious, just how I painted my Space Wolves. So yeah, very Space Wolf themed few weeks, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, so thank you very much for everyone who joined. Thank you for the super chats, everyone who followed and subscribed based on the back of this, and all the new members as well. We will be doing more of these. I may do some Patreon supporter-only streams in the future. I'm not sure how those will work logistically, so because I still want to do a main stream, so it means doing 2 streams. Anyway, I'm waffling. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I hope Twitch will be working next time we stream. And yeah, until next time, thanks for watching, and goodbye.